Hey guys, it's Narelle Cook from CanineCeuticals, and thanks for joining me for another week of Thursday's Thoughts. This is where I share bite-sized pieces of scientific information that I find interesting, and I hope you do too. Now, this is an older study, and I've spoken about it, a lot over the years in my seminars, but I just really wanted to come back to it for any of you who may not be familiar with this study. So it's an older paper from 2015 looking at the evaluation of the effect of dietary vegetable consumption on reducing the risk of transitional cell carcinoma of the urinary bladder in Scottish Terriers. So that's a bit of a mouthful, but transitional cell carcinoma of the urinary bladder, it's actually very similar, like the disease is very similar in dogs as it is in humans, and it also affects a similar percentage, so around 2% of dogs and around 2% of humans. So a lot of dog studies can be used to understand better how to treat the disease in humans, which is what they'll often do. So certain breeds have a higher genetic predisposition, unfortunately, to developing TCC, which is why they've selected Scottish Terriers in this study, because they have a very high genetic predisposition. But other breeds, such as the West Highland Terriers as well, being female, being overweight or obese, urban dwelling, exposure to insecticides and other, ingredients and herbicides. So one of the other papers I was reading, they actually found an increased prevalence of TCC in dogs treated with flea and tick treatment, but they actually thought it was the inert ingredients that made up more than 95% of those treatments that was potentially having the negative health effect. And other studies showing that, dogs that are on lawns that have been treated with herbicides, what happens is that they ingest that herbicide because, they're lying on the lawn and then they lick themselves, and then that gets excreted in the urine, but on its way out, it's actually damaging the urinary system and leading to cancer in that way. So, they've sort of said that there's conflicting evidence regarding the association between the risk of developing TCC and vegetable consumption in humans. Some studies have shown up to a 60% reduction in humans, but other studies, haven't shown that. So they were really interested to do this study in dogs and see what happens. So the way they worked it, they had control dogs and they had case dogs. So that's dogs diagnosed with TCC, and they just asked the owners to keep a really detailed food diary for 12 months. Which they did. So there was 92 dogs in the case study that had TCC, and 83 dogs were control dogs. Okay, so what was really interesting, and I'm not going to go through all the details of the paper, but we will link it to the post, so you can definitely find it and download it and have a read through yourself. But what I really want to highlight, and why I love this study so much, is that there was no significant difference regarding the type of diet consumed fundamentally between the case and the control dogs. So dry commercial dog food was the predominant food type fed to more than 95% of the dogs in the study. So these are all dogs primarily being fed a kibble-based diet. So keep that in mind. So they didn't find any difference in the type of supplements that the dogs were given in the two different groups. But they did find a significant difference in the vegetables fed more than 3 times a week between the two groups. So that's what we're going to really focus in on. So what they found was that consumption of any type of vegetable at least 3 times per week was associated with a significantly decreased risk of developing TCC, but specifically consumption of green leafy vegetables and yellow-orange vegetables had the greatest or the most significant decrease in risk. And the reason that they think this is the case, well, I should say the reason they grouped the vegetables as they did is because of sort of the different phytonutrient content of those particular vegetables. So, your yellow-orange vegetables, for example, are very high in beta-carotene. Your green leafy vegetables are very high in lutein. Cruciferous vegetables are very high in the glucosinolates. So they sort of grouped vegetables that had a similar sort of phytonutrient profile, and then anything else was sort of categorized under other. So if we come down here, you can see that, so this table is looking at vegetables consumed at least 3 times per week and the risk of TCC in the urinary bladder of 87 case dogs and 82 controlled Scottish Terriers. So all types of vegetables at least 3 times a week led to a 70% reduction in the risk of developing TCC. And that was highly significant. Cruciferous vegetables led to a 78% reduction. It wasn't significant between the case and control dogs. Green leafy, borderline significant, but yellow orange, highly significant, percentage reduction in risk. So, and they go on to explain, we know this now, this is an old paper, we absolutely know now the anti-cancer benefits of phytonutrients that are coming from plants. So they're just sort of highlighting here, how they might be doing that in the body. But basically, this whole study concluded, an inverse association was detected between 3 times per week consumption of vegetables, specifically the consumption of green leafy and yellow orange vegetables, in terms of reducing the risk for developing TCC. And in this study, it was for Scottish Terriers. So that is just, I continue to find that mind-blowing because, I don't hide the fact that I'm a huge proponent of a more species-appropriate diet, whether that's, a raw diet or a whole food cooked diet. I'm not a fan of kibble. I've spoken about the sort of cancer promoting properties of kibble and, and the mechanisms behind that. But so that's what's so beautiful about this study. If you are feeding your dog kibble, you can have enormous health benefits or provide enormous health benefits to your dog just by adding in some vegetables at least 3 times a week. Any amount is, a step in the right direction. So have a think about how that might work for you. The absolute easiest approach to that is just to cook some extra veggies that you're cooking, when you're cooking for yourself and your family, and just put those aside to add to the dog's bowl. Just make sure you're not adding anything that's not safe for dogs, such as from the onion family. But that's super easy. Some veggies are better cooked, some are fine raw. We always recommend that if you don't cook them, that you blend or pulverize them in some way to make them more bioavailable to your dog. But if you've got any questions about, how you might enhance your dog's diet with some vegetables, please reach out to us at info@CanineCeuticals.com.au. But some other really, potent sort of phytonutrient supplements that you might consider, our organic super greens, that is just so packed with nutrition and, beneficial ingredients. So that might be a really easy first step if you want to enhance your dog's diet and your feeding, just a standard commercial kibble. And there's so many other beautiful supplements. The beef bone broth with the organic mushroom blend, is a lovely addition as well. The mushroom elixir has amazing properties and health benefits as well. So much to think about. But, if you want to learn more about the products or other resources we have, please jump onto the website CanineCeuticals.com.au, and you can find just so much information there, blogs and podcasts and guides. And like I said, if you have any questions on how you might improve your dog's diet and you're just not sure where to start, we have the consultation service, so you can also access that via the website. Just look along the top tab for consults. If you've made changes to your dog's diet and you've noticed some improvements in their health, whatever that condition might be, I'd love to hear your stories and, to be able to share that with other people as well. But otherwise, thank you for another week of Thursday's Thoughts, and I'll see you next week.